The school bully dumped all the kimbap sold by the old lady onto the ground, then stuck a cigarette butt in it, forcing the old lady to eat it. The old lady's grandson begged the bully to spare his grandmother, but he was surrounded and beaten by the bully's lackeys. The bully then forced him to kneel and eat the kimbap off the ground. He could only grab the kimbap and stuff it into his mouth, not daring to stop even when he choked.
이제부터 네 이름은 김밥이야. 내 말 한마디라도 거역을 한다. 그럼 네 안에 뒤지는 거야.
This student named Sukhan was the son of a plutocrat family, and he did all kinds of evil at school, relying on his wealthy and powerful family. Recently, he took a dislike to his classmate Jin Hyung and tortured him every day, making his life a living hell. Sukhan ordered his lackeys to choke Jin Hyung until he passed out, then wake him up and play with him repeatedly. They then took Jin Hyung to the broadcast room to play rock paper scissors, and every time he lost, he got slapped. Sukhan watched this scene with great interest. To seek more excitement, he would turn up the broadcast volume to let the entire school hear. The violent slaps and his perverted laughter had become a nightmare for the students. The entire school, both students and teachers, were angry but afraid to speak out against Sukhan. Everything changed when a new intern teacher, Seamin, arrived at the school. Seamin appeared kind and friendly, always smiling, but no one knew that she was actually a boxing expert. She was just one step away from becoming a world champion, but to pay off her father's debts, she fought a bogus match in the finals and was banned for life. So she came to the school as an intern teacher. To become a full-time teacher, Seamin was careful not to cause any trouble. She didn't even dare to resist her superior's harassment, only venting her anger in the restroom. Her colleague's first piece of advice was, never provoke Sukhan, and ignore anything related to him. At that time, Seamin didn't understand why the teachers and students were so afraid of him, until one day, she saw Sukhan putting a plastic bag over a student's head and beating him in public. Seamin wanted to stop him but was suddenly blocked by another student.
한수왕네 아버지는 검찰 쪽에 높은 사람이고 여기서 나서시면 센 마음이 위험해져요.
At that moment, Sukhan was about to jump and kick the student's face. The student was trembling with fear but didn't dare to dodge. Just as Sukhan rushed over, Seamin suddenly appeared in front of him. She pretended to be on the phone and seized the opportunity to elbow Sukhan's thigh. Seamin pretended to be injured as well, groaning in pain. She blamed Sukhan for going too far and then removed the plastic bag from the boy's head, discovering that it was her student, Jin Hyung. Seamin orders Jin Hyung to go back to class, which helps him defuse this crisis. But the murderous look in Sukhan's eyes secretly shocked her. The next day, Jin Hyung came to Seamin for help. He said all the teachers were afraid of Sukhan's family's power and didn't dare to help him. Even when he reported it to the police, they dismissed it due to lack of evidence. Seeing this poor, helpless student, Seamin was torn. She wanted to help Jin Hyung but feared losing her job by offending Sukhan. After all, if the full-time teachers couldn't handle it, what could she, an intern, do? She tried to convince herself to let it go, but her innate sense of justice wouldn't allow it. Finally, she decided to write an anonymous letter to the Education Bureau. However, the next day, the letter ended up in the hands of Sukhan's chaebol mother. She stormed into the office, demanding to know who wrote the letter, and then started hitting and scolding the school leaders and homeroom teacher. Everyone was too scared to speak. Seeing the situation getting worse, Seamin panicked and knelt down to apologize, not wanting to implicate other teachers.
물러먹다 온 개뼈 따구 같은 게 돈 번다는 기집애 같은 이런.
Sukhan's mother began to humiliate her incessantly and ordered the school leaders to fire her immediately. Seamin didn't dare to resist and could only humbly beg for forgiveness. Meanwhile, Sukhan watched everything from outside with Jin Hyung, feeling very pleased. He told Jin Hyung that he would never escape him. From then on, Seamin also became Sukhan's target. He ordered the principal not to fire Seamin, planning to have some fun with her. One night, while Seamin was brooding alone, a pair of evil eyes fixed on her. Sukhan and his lackeys approached Seamin, and he suddenly forced her into his arms. He flirted with her lewdly, saying obscene things, utterly shameless. Seamin suppressed her anger and tried to leave, but Sukhan threatened her with the photos he had just taken. Seamin walked out in exasperation, only to be bumped into by another man. Instead of apologizing, he grabbed her head and cursed at her. Seamin's anger reached its limit. Recalling the humiliation she had suffered recently, she finally couldn't take it anymore. She raised her right leg high and left a shoe print on the man's face. At that moment, she decided not to compromise anymore and to make the bad guys pay. Sukhan was still bullying his classmates for fun, which reignited Seamin's fighting spirit. She put on a mask, becoming the invincible boxing expert she once was. Seamin rushed to Sukhan and kicked him to the ground. This strike made Seamin feel exhilarated. Sukhan was stunned. No one had ever dared to hit him like that. Seamin ignored him and started punching his head. Sukhan was dizzy and angry, lying on the ground in disbelief. His lackeys were shocked. They had never seen Sukhan so humiliated. Feeling disgraced, Sukong tried to tear off her mask to see who she was, but Seaman caught him off guard and almost broke his leg. Sukong's eyes were filled with anger, but the only thing that responded to him is Seaman's swift fists. The sudden arrival of the police ended the farce prematurely. This exhilarating revenge made Seaman laugh heartily, but her students saw it. He couldn't believe that the dashing fighter was his teacher. The next day, news of Sukong being beaten by the cat person spread throughout the school, and even the teachers were talking about it. Although they didn't know who the cat person was, their joy was evident. Seaman pretended nothing had happened, but she felt immense satisfaction inside. The bullied students were even more excited, drawing cat person images everywhere, even on Sukong's desk. Frustrated, Sukong vented his anger by speeding on the road, and his lackeys suffered along with him. But this did nothing to calm his anger, so Sukong decided to take it out on Jin Hyung. They stripped Jin Hyung naked, wrote insulting words all over his body, and put a plastic bag over his head. Then they forced him to crawl down the stairs to buy fried chicken. Jin Hyung, terrified, didn't dare resist and ran to the fried chicken shop, with passers-by thinking he was a pervert. Unable to bear the humiliation any longer, he grabbed a knife from the shop and went to confront Sukong. A classmate working at the fried chicken shop saw this and quickly found Seaman. He confessed that he had seen Seaman take off her mask after beating Sukong and begged her to save Jin Hyung.
그날 경찰 부른 것도 저고 학교에 고양이 탈 소문 낸 것도 저예요. 도와주세요, 선생님.
Seaman appears in front of Sukong as cat person again, and Sukong angrily grabbed a pool ball and threw it at her. Then, taking advantage of her dodge, he suddenly attacked and knocked her down. Sukong, like a madman, grabbed anything he could find and smashed it onto Seaman. Fortunately, Seaman's resilience was strong, and she quickly regained her composure. She delivered a flying kick, followed by another kick, making Sukong spit blood. At that moment, Jin Hyung returned in with a knife. She managed to prevent Jin Hyung from committing an irreversible mistake, but her arm was cut by the knife, and Jin Hyung lay on the ground in pain, screaming. The long-term bullying had pushed him to the brink of a mental breakdown. But Sukong showed no remorse. The next day, Sukong began inspecting the arms of all students, trying to find the cat person, because he always thought the cat person was a man. He found nothing.
하루에 한 마리씩 패 죽여버린다. 알겠어!
At that moment, a student almost bumped into Seaman, but she nimbly dodged. Sukong noticed this and saw Seaman instinctively cover her arm. He instantly confirmed the cat person's identity.
찾았다. 고양이. 양.
Seaman pretending to be unaware, but Sukong grabbed her arm. Seaman tried to escape, but Sukong pinned her to the table. He then put a plastic bag over her head, making her experience the suffocation. Sukong came up with a more entertaining idea. He wanted to duel with Seaman in the boxing ring, planning to kill her openly. He threatened Seaman that if she didn't accept the challenge, he would give the video of Jin Hyung attacking with a knife to the police. Seaman tried to persuade him not to make things worse, but how could a demon be easily changed? Meanwhile, Seaman was informed that she was about to become a full-time teacher. If she participated in this conflict, she would inevitably lose this hard-earned job. While Seaman was deeply conflicted, Jin Hyung had already broken down. Seeing this desperate and helpless student, Seaman hugged him tightly. At that moment, she made her choice.
우리 이기자. 축제 때 꼭 와준영아.
Thus, this ultimate showdown became the school's focus. Seaman arrived as promised, and the students, wearing masks, cheered for the cat person. They had been oppressed by Sukong for too long. For this duel, Sukong had also intensified his training. Additionally, with Seaman's injured arm, Sukong initially had the upper hand. He arrogantly launched a fierce attack on Seaman, treating her like a toy. During the fight, Seaman's hair was pulled loose. Everyone was shocked to realize that the cat person they admired was actually a woman. Sukong pinned Seaman down, punching her face repeatedly, intending to reveal her true identity in public.
벗길까 말까? 어? 너 둘 다 벗길까? 전교사에 처먹게 돼가지고 못 벗겠구만. 대답해! 왜 그지 같은 년아.
Seaman was kicked to the ground again. Suddenly, she saw the dejected Jin Hyung in the crowd, which ignited her inner anger.
나 포기 안 해.
She seized Sukong's weakness, threw him to the ground, and executed her signature spinning kick. Sukong was completely stunned. He couldn't accept losing to a woman. But Seaman wouldn't give him any more chances.
내가 너 꼭 꿀린다. 이 애들 앞에서 처절하게 다시는 못 일어서게.
Seaman boldly removed her mask. At that moment, she no longer wanted to hide. Those who uphold justice don't need to conceal themselves. The teachers and students were all shocked, and Jin Hyun was stunned. However, beyond the shock, there was respect. Even Sukon's lackeys became fans of Seaman. Seaman's warm-up was over. The real battle had just begun. In front of Seaman, Sukon had become a punching bag, only able to take hits and sway.
왔어.
Seeing Sukon beaten into a pulp, the principal panicked and ordered Seaman to stop. But Sukon refused to end it in such humiliation. Seaman didn't mind continuing to teach this bad student with her fists. Sukon was beaten to the point of having no strength to fight back, and the principal was the first to fall. However, Sukon launched a sneak attack while Seaman was distracted. Seaman realized it was time to make him face reality. Sukon no longer had the strength to get up. Seeing his teacher fighting for him, Jin Hyun was moved to tears. Seaman then delivered her most powerful kick, shattering Sukon's last shred of dignity and kicking him to Jin Hyun's feet. Seaman demanded that he kneel and apologize to Jin Hyun, but he remained arrogant and defiant.
조카 씹새끼야.
네 사과 따윈 필요 없어. 모두에게 졌으니까 지옥에나 가라.
Sukon went completely mad, refusing to admit his defeat, and grabbed a billboard to charge at Seaman. But the only thing that responded to him was Seaman's soul. Seeing Sukon lying on the ground like a dead dog, everyone felt free. In the end, Seaman walked away gracefully. She showed everyone that the way to defeat bullying is not by being weak but by fighting back. Jin Hyun went to the police station again to report Sukon's crimes. This time, Sukon's lackeys provided evidence of his bullying, causing a huge public outcry. Since Sukon was already an adult, he finally received the punishment he deserved. After voluntarily resigning, Seaman applied to a new school. She didn't plan to leave the campus because there were still countless instances of school bullying that needed her to eliminate, and countless people like Sukon who needed to be educated by her fists.